Hi everyone, welcome back to Good Angle Sports. If you haven't done this already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel at Good Angle Sports. Like this video, share your comments in the comment section. Let's get into it. Alright, so let's get into the good, and we are going to start from Italy. Como have had a fantastic season under Cesc Fabregas. Remember Cesc Fabregas, right? The Arsenal legend, or is it the Chelsea legend? I mean, at this point, who knows, right? But Cesc Fabregas has used Como or the Como project as an opportunity to showcase his talents as an up-and-coming manager. Como this season have now qualified for the Champions League, and throughout the season, they have been combining brilliant performances with some nice football. Like when you attractive football, when you watch them play, you realize that these guys are not just, it's not just a fluke. All the stuff that they are doing is not just a fluke. They actually are a very, very talented squad. There's a lot of promising young players in there. Nico Pass, Baturina, Diao, so many other players in the lineup. You understand? They've been doing so well this season. They've got some really, really impressive results along the way. And it is no surprise that at the end of it, they are playing the Champions League. I mean, qualifying for any type of Europe would have been a massive achievement by them anyway. But them actually qualifying for the topmost European competition, which is the Champions League, is super impressive. Like what Fabregas has done at Como is legendary, basically. It really is legendary, actually, right? And they were competing with Milan for that final Champions League place right up until the final day. And Milan basically bottled it. They needed a result in their last game and they just couldn't get it. They needed a win in their last game and they couldn't get it. And as a result, Como are the ones who are able to do and handle their business. They are the ones who are going to benefit from Milan's slip up and qualifying for the Champions League. For me, I love stories like this because, it's nice to see the Champions League getting a shake-up, introducing new teams, new talents, new players to look forward to in terms of us watching them and appreciating what they bring to the game. So yeah, this Como having such an impressive season is a very, very good thing. Speaking about beautiful stories, we are going to head over to England now and talk about Sunderland, who have also themselves achieved a very, very impressive feat coming from the Championship and then qualifying for the Europa League. Sunderland, Newcastle's rival, right? Everyone typically would suggest that once teams get promoted to the Premier League, like they often go straight back down, right? But Sunderland are proof that if you come into the Premier League and you handle your business, get the recruitment right, getting the right manager in place, right, you are capable of achieving beautiful things such as this. And Sunderland have done it. They are in Europe. They are playing in the Europa League. On the fight, they secured their spot on the final day. It's a massive achievement. If you've been looking at Sunderland and what they've been doing throughout the season, they have been playing some brilliant football. And if you look at the squad, Sadiki, Granit Xhaka, like I mentioned to you before, so many Brian Broby and things like that. If you look at them, there's a good vibe amongst the squad. That's one thing that a lot of people have noticed with the Sunderland team. There's a good vibe, there's a good team spirit, and it's no surprise that they have achieved, such an impressive feat as a team at the end of the season. Granit Xhaka, when he left Bayer Leverkusen and came to Sunderland, a lot of people had raised eyebrows with that move because, you've just gone invincible in Germany. Everyone would have thought that maybe he would have probably gone to team with different aspirations, right? But Granit Xhaka has once again come to Sunderland and made such a massive difference. This is a guy who at one point at Arsenal got booed off the pitch and he was even having a go at his own fans. Xhaka has come a long way and him and Sunderland have had a very, very impressive season and deserve all their props. Bruno Fernandes, we have to talk about Bruno Fernandes, right? He's been in the news for so long now. It feels like he's been in the news for, at least 3 weeks straight, right? Given the fact that he was on the verge of breaking the Premier League assist record, he first equaled it, and then now on the final day of the Premier League season, he broke clear of Kevin De Bruyne and Thierry Henry with 21 assists, putting him alone on his own on top of that Premier League record. Bruno Fernandes now has the Premier League record for the most assists in the Premier League. And it's a very, very impressive feat. And what I find interesting or a bit funny when it comes to these things is how people like to shift the goalposts when it's a United player, right? Because for a very long time, this Premier League assist record has been something that people have spoken about in high regard, right? When they are speaking about Thierry Henry, when they're speaking about Kevin De Bruyne and his greatness in the Premier League, right, and how close Mesut Ozil came to breaking that record. Now all of a sudden, Bruno Fernandes is about to break it. Oh, and it's not such a big deal. Oh, why United fans celebrating an assist record? Who cares about assists? Who cares about assists? Like, bro, since when did we start speaking about this like this? Come on. Bruno Fernandes has achieved something wonderful. It's no surprise that, he's racking up all the, individual awards this season. And yeah, he deserves it. He fully deserves it. Let's give props where it's due. Congratulations to Bruno Fernandes. And let's keep it moving. Now, I spoke about beautiful stories, and we have to go back to another one, right? And this time, we are going all the way to Portugal, where a team from the second division called Torrense basically beat Sporting CP in the Portuguese Cup final and become the first team to win the Cup final from the second division. Now, as if that wasn't enough, they also became the first team who have qualified for the Europa League from the second division of the Portuguese league. It's insane. Like, this is one of those truly remarkable stories, beautiful stories. Like, this is one of those, the football gods, wrote the story out. You get me? And it's kind of like when Greece won Euro 2004, right? No one was expecting it, right? They came into the competition as one of the underdogs, and they ended up winning the competition. A beautiful achievement, right? This achievement by Torrense fits that bill, and it's a very, 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 very impressive achievement, and it's a very small town, and they've been partying since they won it, and rightfully so. And I hope they enjoy it, and they themselves are actually also in a playoff as well, trying to get promotion to the Portuguese league. We wish them all the best, but I'm sure that no matter what happens, winning the cup would be something that the team and their fans will remember for many years to come. Now, to wrap up the good, we have to speak about a very, very impressive Englishman in Harry Kane, right? Harry Kane has now scored 61 goals in 51 appearances, right? It is absolutely insane when you think about the season that he has had. Honestly, I truly believe that Harry Kane is not spoken about enough. He is not spoken. Can you imagine if Mbappe scored 61 goals in one season? He would be all over the news. He would hands down win the Ballon d'Or without a doubt. If Kylian Mbappe scored 61 goals in a season, he is winning the Ballon d'Or. If Lamine Yamal scored 61 goals in 51 games in a season, he's winning the Ballon d'Or, right? But when it comes to Harry Kane scoring 61 goals, 51 appearances, there doesn't seem to be much talk about it at all. It's been mentioned, but it's just going under the radar of so many other stuff. And it's like, bro, this is crazy. I mean, yes, his team were only knocked out of the semi-final of the Champions League as well. They won the Bundesliga. They won the German Cup. Why isn't this guy being spoken about as much as he needs to be? It's insane. Yes, he is being mentioned, but this is a phenomenal feat. I believe that if Olise, for example, right, was had these numbers, they will be talking about him every single day. Now, what goes against Harry Kane is, one, the PR is not PRing, and two, also as a personality, Harry Kane doesn't really put a lot of personality out there, to be very honest with you. We always say, you have the whole nonchalance thing, he has the hoodie up, he has the snood up, covering up his entire face, only revealing his eyes, things like that, right? He has all that going for him, personality, so it makes that player more interesting, and so people want to talk about that kind of player more. But please, people, we need to talk about Harry Kane. Does this put Harry Kane firmly in the Ballon d'Or conversation? Some might even argue that, does this make him a favorite to win the Ballon d'Or? Yes, he's not going to win the Champions League, right? But if you really think about it, I mean, is there any Arsenal player who deserves to win the Ballon d'Or? No. I think that the player that they probably would have put up or propped up for that would have been Declan Rice, right? But Declan Rice didn't even win the Player of the Season in the Premier League. So how is he going to win the Ballon d'Or? Do you get what I'm saying? So no Arsenal player is going to win the Ballon d'Or, right? Now, if you come to PSG, yes, there are going to be some candidates in there, Cavara, and, I don't know if Dembele is, I don't think he's in this year, to be honest with you, right? So, who are we going to give it to? I know people are speaking about Olise as well, who's had a very impressive season himself, but really and truly, I just cannot see. I don't know. I feel like Harry Kane has a very, very strong case for this. I know some United fans are trying to throw Bruno's name in the hat and, mention the fact that the World Cup campaign is also going to be a huge factor, which is true. It is. So I think the World Cup will really refine or give us a clearer idea of who's going to win it. But I think Harry Kane has a massive shout. Honestly, he really, really does. And he deserves to be spoken about more than he is. All right. So, yeah. Anyway, that brings us to the end of the good. Let's get into the bad. Now, we need to start our West Ham. Okay, West Ham, after 14 years in the Premier League, got relegated. Now, when teams get relegated after a long time, you have to look back and you often find that there have been a series of questionable decisions that have led to that particular demise, right? From managers to recruitment to the general running of the club, all of that stuff. Right now, if you look at West Ham, they've had periods where they would go for a manager like a David Moyes, who would stabilize the club, who would get them some decent results and keep them afloat in the league. David Moyes even won a European trophy for them as well. Right? Then, when they start getting that kind of success, they start to view themselves as bigger than they are. And then they often think, oh, you know what, let's go and try getting the posh manager to sort of, who can put us in that position where we are challenging for Europe, challenging for trophies, stuff like that. They start to, get very, very imaginative, right? And then they bring in such managers, and then they find themselves in trouble again. Then they go back for a manager like a David Moyes again. Right, and it's been that sort of situation that West Ham have found themselves in over the years, I feel, that has led to the situation. Now, that's not the only thing. Obviously, recruitment also has to be spoken about. How well have West Ham recruited over the years? I feel like in the striker department specifically, I can't remember the last time West Ham had a very good striker. Like, think about it. When was the last time West Ham had a very good striker? It's been ages. They've had some decent players in midfield and some good defenders, but even the good defenders, I don't even remember the last time West Ham had a defender that you would say, okay, that's a really good. I mean, when you think of some of their most outstanding players, you think about Souček, you think about Bowen. Outside of that, okay, Matheus Fernandes, of course, that was a very good signing as well. Diop, is it Diop? Yes. He as well too. Very, very good signing. I would love him at United. Him and then Matheus Fernandes, those two, I would love them. I feel like Jared Bowen has been one of their most impressive players, since he got there, right? But generally, you are going to need more than that to survive in the Premier League. And I think that recruitment has also played a part in their demise. But I think West Ham, if they're able to keep a certain core of their players, I think they could bounce straight back up. But it's going to be a very, very interesting summer. Tough decisions are going to have to be made. And let's see how it goes. Spurs. Speaking about bad decisions, I mean, Spurs have also found themselves in a situation where they've been battling relegation for pretty much most of the season. And Spurs have also, just like I spoke about with West Ham, you can look back and trace back to many questionable decisions that have led to this moment. Mourinho, Conte, who was the other one? I've forgotten their managers. Mourinho, Conte, Thomas Frank, and then also when it comes to players, bringing in Kolo Muani, Solanke, they got him. At the time, it looked like a good signing because he had an impressive season at Bournemouth. But when he came, he's looked like a completely different player. It hasn't worked out. They still have Richarlison in their ranks, who, for me, has never really been that prolific of a striker, right? Tottenham are also another team that, since Harry Kane left, they haven't been able to replace him. Then also, Son, they basically used Son right up until the end. And, it got to a point where, obviously, his powers had waned, and then he ended up in the MLS. I don't think they have replaced their best players who left the club. Right from Gareth Bale to Luka Modric and all of those players. I don't think Spurs ever really replaced those guys. So it's been years of mixed decisions and questionable ones that have led to this moment. Kolo Muani, I don't think, that guy, bro, I think he might probably end up in the French league and not back at his parent club, PSG. He might have to go back to his former club, Nantes or something, because, bro, that guy, crazy work. No serious football club should have Kolo Muani leading the line for them, right? And obviously, you talk about their captain, Romero, who is also a little bit reckless. You have to question his leadership as well. Yes, sometimes passion doesn't always equate to good leadership, right? Romero comes across as a very passionate guy, someone who wears his heart on his sleeve. But does that mean he's a good leader? I'm not so sure. If you look at some of the antics that, he has put out there as a Spurs captain. Mickey van der Ven, I believe, is a very good defender, but people have also questioned, okay, are we saying he's very good because he's impressive offensively? You get what I'm saying? I think that's a good debate to have, but I think he's a decent defender, right? But if you look outside of that, Spurs have a lot of questionable players in defense, midfield, and surely in attack. And I feel like they never really kicked on after they won the Europa League a year ago, right? So Spurs have gotten away by the skin of their teeth, and it was kind of crazy, to see them celebrating the way that they did after surviving relegation. Yes, I understand that it was a very, very, like, if you're talking about moments, if you're talking about tension, the drama and all of that stuff, yes, emotions will pour out in that moment. But if you're a Spurs fan, you will look at those celebrations and I feel like you should be very worried. Do you get what I'm saying? And question where the club is heading. I think that Roberto De Zerbi was a good appointment. I think he's a very good manager. He did a very impressive job at Marseille. I still don't understand what really happened at Marseille to let him go. I think it was a massive mistake by Marseille to let Roberto De Zerbi go, considering what he had built at Marseille, like where he had brought Marseille to. Marseille, right up until De Zerbi left, were giving PSG a run for their money in the league. And as soon as that relationship broke down, I think it just went south from there. And I think that, honestly, Marseille are going to find themselves struggling again. Mason Greenwood is going to leave soon. They're going to lose some players. The project has fallen apart again, just when they were about to figure it out. So all in all, I think Spurs have made a good appointment in the Zerbi. Next season is an opportunity for them to start afresh, start with a new slate. Recruitment is key and vital for this new era that Spurs are going to embark on. Now, obviously, when we get to the final day of the season, we see all kinds of recognition and things like that, guards of honor, players getting substituted just before the final whistle so they can either say farewell to the fans or give the fans an opportunity to appreciate the player, things like that. So there were different kinds of things going around. United did it with Casemiro. City were doing it with Bernardo Silva. Pep was also leaving. Liverpool did it with Salah as well. And one thing that was spoken about after the fact was by people like Wayne Rooney was whether the whole guard of honor during the game was excessive. I thought it was odd. Like, watching it in real time, I was like, why are even Aston Villa players joining in the guard of honor? I know that Bernardo Silva is a legendary Premier League player, don't get me wrong, but I feel like that's something that City is more of a City thing. I don't think Bernardo Silva is a player that the entire Premier League would necessarily celebrate. Yes, respect will be given for sure, but it was weird seeing Aston Villa players also join the guard of honor. Like, it was a weird one. And when Rooney made the points that things like this should be done after the game, and I kind of see it because it's like you spend a lot of time just watching them clapping the player off, blah, blah, blah. I don't really mind it, but yeah, it just felt like a little bit much, to be honest with you. Guys, we have to talk about Chelsea. Okay, Chelsea have really, really had a very, very shocking season, right? A season that, prior to that, obviously, they had won the Club World Cup. They had won the Conference League. Things were looking good with Maresca. Right now, the season began. There was trouble in paradise. Maresca left. Then they brought the school teacher in Liam Rosenior. And now they've ended the season with a caretaker manager who, bro, right? And if you're a Chelsea fan, you are probably wondering, how has this happened? After all this money spent by Bluco, right? There was a point where you woke up every day and Chelsea was signing a new player almost every day. How has it descended into this? Finishing 10th, right? No Europe next season whatsoever, right? And on the final day, all they needed to do was just draw and they would have been playing Europa League football. Because now, the Europa League football, even though you would rather be playing the Champions League, a lot of teams appreciate being in the Europa League football because, yes, it's some kind of Europe. It's better than the Conference League, right? And there are still some decent teams that end up playing in the Europa League. Plus, added to that, there's that added incentive of if you win it, you are getting a straight route into the Champions League. So for a lot of teams who may be struggling and may not necessarily have good chances of qualifying for the Champions League, really look forward to qualifying for the Europa League, and it would have done Chelsea some good, especially because of their huge squad size. It will be a good opportunity to rotate some players and give some players playing time. And all they needed to do was draw, and they couldn't do it. They got beaten. So for Chelsea, that pretty much summed up the kind of season that they had, and it left a lot of Chelsea fans feeling like crap, basically. So yeah, it's a sad state of affairs at Chelsea Football Club. But what I would say is Xabi Alonso, the appointment of Xabi Alonso is a good one. It's a very, very impressive one. I think it was a positive sign for them to act quickly and get that sorted out immediately. I think that if Liverpool were in the picture, Xabi Alonso would be going there instead of Chelsea. But I'm sure that they moved quickly because they didn't want to give him that opportunity to even consider any potential Liverpool offer. They've tied him down. I think it's a good appointment. Again, recruitment is going to be massive for Chelsea. I've mentioned it before. Chelsea need to go and get Victor Osimhen from Galatasaray. Chelsea need a prolific striker, a big, strong striker who is imposing in the box. And I feel like Victor Osimhen will be the massive start to their summer rebuild, right? But hey, I'm not the one who makes the decision, so yeah. Milan missed out on the Champions League. Like I mentioned to you earlier, it was between them and Como. Como got their job done. Milan couldn't get the job done. Heads have to roll in situations like this. And subsequently, Allegri has been let go. He has been sacked. And it's no surprise there because once again, if you look at Milan, just like I've mentioned before, a series of decisions have led to this. Milan is a big club. Milan should be, over the years, just like Como have done, embarked on a project that was very promising young talents in Italy, right, or elsewhere across Europe, and then mixing that with some experience, right? But Milan have adopted the strategy over the years of getting players who have done it elsewhere, right, or who have struggled elsewhere. Pulisic was struggling at Chelsea. They brought him in. Pulisic has been good for them. No problem there, right? Then they got Luka Modric in from Real Madrid. Luka Modric's time at Real Madrid was done. Listen, Modric is still a very good player, but if you are relying on Modric week in, week out, right, who is at the, not even twilight of his career, just light. He's not even in the twilight of his career. He's at the light of his career, right? If you are relying on someone like that week in, week out, where's the ambition in that? Do you get me? Where's the ambition in that? And so with Milan, it's no surprise. Rafael Leao, honestly, I think at this point, they have to sell him this summer, right? Milan need to sell him for funds to rebuild a team and also for him on a personal level. How long is he going to keep doing this? I'm sure he will want to test himself in another league or in another club that have better prospects of challenging for, bigger titles and trophies, right? So, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the ugly. And there's only one discussion point here under the ugly. It's also about Bruno Fernandes, okay? We have to talk about, I've mentioned the revisionism when it comes to Bruno Fernandes and his Premier League assist record, right? But at the same time, even his own legends, his own club legends, right, have been talking down on Bruno Fernandes for some time now. A lot of United fans have been left frustrated by the likes of Roy Keane and Gary Neville and some of their commentary in relation to the club and specifically in relation to Bruno Fernandes. recently Roy Keane was bemoaning the fact that the Manchester United had been reduced to celebrating a Premier League assist record, an individual record, rather than chasing titles. He was of the opinion that why are they celebrating him getting assists instead of, striving to winning titles? But the reality of the situation is every team goes from one stage to another. Today, Arsenal are being hailed as the best club in England, but they have gone through different stages, right? They started by getting into the top 4. They started by challenging for a couple of years now. People call them butlers for it. And today they are champions, right? So every team goes through stages. Manchester United were nowhere near challenging for the title this year, right? But they have gone from 15th to 3rd. There's a reason why. They have gone from 15th to 3rd. There's a reason why, right? And so sometimes these things, you have to acknowledge it. I talked about this earlier. If there are 2 more players in a United squad who go out between 11 and 13 assists this season, United will probably be higher up the table. Will probably have gotten more points, probably be in a title race. So the individual achievements culminate into team achievements, right? So I think that you can celebrate individual achievements. You can. I don't think we should downplay it. I don't think we should look down on it. I don't think we should make the players feel bad for celebrating those milestones. In addition to that, Roy Keane mentioned something like, Bruno said, he wanted to shoot, but he should have shot, but instead he chose to pass it, trying to suggest that Bruno was, being selfish and was chasing the individual record so much so that he was giving up an opportunity to score and win the game for United just so he could get an assist and get his individual award.
United the weekend, honestly, I was raging with it. The whole chat about his assists and players talking about assists. He got interviewed after the match, after the game, and I was watching him and everyone was talking about his assists, and even the players the game was about his assists. That's the whole talk. After the game, he got interviewed and he said in his interview, the captain of Man United, he said, a few times I probably should have. He said this himself, I should have shot, but I made them passes. Wow. How can your mindset of a football be going out to a match and be talking about some individual wreck? If it happens, he's going to get all them stats anyway. But for it to become the main point about Man United's performance the weekend, I was cringing with all of them. And all the players, when he got the assist, going over to, what about the guy who scored the goal?
And he actually didn't say that. He rather said the opposite. And so Bruno Fernandes, in his on the podcast, Diary of the CEO, mentioned that, listen, you can criticize me all you want, but don't twist my words or don't speak lies about me.
To be honest, like I've always said, I don't mind criticism. I've always take criticism from everyone and anyone, and I never replied to anything or whatsoever. People have an opinion, they think it's good, bad, whatever. What I don't like was when people lie about things. And this case that you said about Roy Keane, basically what he said is a lie. And luckily for me, is everything on record. Imagine if he wasn't, like, then people will think like, oh yeah, Bruno is the guy always trying to get the assist. I even asked Ole his number to text him, to be honest, to have a word with him to say like that I don't mind the criticism. I don't like when people lie about things that I say, because this is like, it goes a little bit over the top of the things that I think are acceptable.
And he has every right to say that. He has every right to defend himself in that way. A truly shocking situation as well in relation to Gary Neville and Bruno Fernandes as well was when one season or a couple of seasons ago, he suggested that Bruno Fernandes had asked for the manager to sub him off because we were having a bad game at Anfield. Anyone who knows Bruno Fernandes, I don't know him personally or whatever, but from what we've seen from Bruno Fernandes over the years as a leader, that sounds like an absurd, accusation. Why would Bruno Fernandes tell the manager to take him off when we are losing a game? It doesn't even make sense. But Gary Neville said this on commentary and has since never spoken about it or commented on it, despite the fact that Bruno Fernandes has come out and mentioned that it's an absolutely ridiculous claim. At the end of the day, you can verify this by speaking to the manager at the time. It's insane. Right? And the fact that nothing has been said about this, I think is very, very unfair to the player. Then again, it's Manchester United. Then again, it's Bruno Fernandes. hated, adored, never ignored, right? It is what it is. Anyway, guys, this brings us to the end of the good, the bad, and the ugly show. If you haven't done this already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel at Good and Go Sports. Like this video, share your comments in the comment section. It's a safe space, and I'll see you on the next one.